Velma Bronn Johnston was in life-threatening circumstances at the age of 11. Life was trying to give up on her from a disease called polio, making her become disfigured from being in a full body cast for 6 months. Although Sis tried to stop her, she would not let it destroy her wild passion for horses. Velma Bronn Johnston took a stand for wild horses in Nevada beginning in the 1950s when the horse population was being destroyed from capture. Without Velma Bronn Johnston, wild horses in the western United States would be nearly non-existent. Johnston started speaking out about her passion of horses and how the horse population being eliminated affected her. Velma Johnston wanted the situation out in the open so people could fight it, not hide it. One day, Velma was driving to her job as a secretary for Reno Insurance and saw blood dripping from a trailer that she was falling behind in her truck. She followed it, and when it came to a stop, she peered into the slats of the trailer and saw a yearling was trampled. Many yearlings were in the trailer, but this one was in between two stallions. A yearling is a horse under the age of 4 years old, and a stallion is a dominant male horse. All of the horses had some kind of injury, and it was all to calm them in a sense. Velma had asked the driver where they had come from and why they looked so mutilated. He said they were driven down by a plane. Velma decided there that she would take a stand for them. According to the International Society for the Protection of Mustangs and Burros organization 2014, the horses were free-roaming, gathered from private and state lands. Johnston started gathering facts and evidence and first spoke in Story County, Nevada. Horse people were everywhere, listening and trying to find a way to help or even learn more about wild horses. Others, though, threatened her. She was told to stop or be killed. Johnston brushed this off lightly and didn't mind the threats. It meant her speaking was effective. After many meetings and public speeches in Virginia City, she earned her nickname Wild Horse Annie. Johnston felt her speaking was effective but not reaching its full potential. She wanted to go to Congress, but she was said to have, as UNR states, the failure to obtain conviction for a well-documented violation of act. She still continued her acts until 1955. Velma's campaign in the Nevada state legislature led to a bill that banned aircraft and land vehicles from capturing wild horses on state lands. Illegal acts were brewing in the Johnstons' household. Many times, Velma and her husband Charlie would pack and ride out to release captured horses whenever possible. These trips were not brought into the public in her speeches, nor did she mention them really anywhere. It was more of a private matter to her and Charlie. They used their own horses, Hobo and Ranger, to go on rocky and hard terrain they faced. It didn't take long to find a corral of rusty pipe fencing that contained some 60 horses. In 1934, Velma and Charlie packed supplies and food that would last about a week. When they rode in, they saw no lock latched upon the gate. Charlie swung the gate open, and it took minutes for the badly beaten, injured, and half-dead Mustangs to realize they were being saved as they rushed out on pure adrenaline despite their broken and weak bodies. Charlie and Velma Johnston did this acting as a side job, but both equally respected horses. Charlie gentled all of the horses they ever owned and never used cruel treatment. The horses they had for most of their time together was Hobo, Ranger, Hoodoo, and Foxy. At first, Johnston often spoke of these occurrences like the abuse and neglect Charlie and herself experienced. The hard evidence was really needed. When photographers such as Gus Bundy and a man named Fritz came around, she got possibly some of the best evidence and step-up she could have ever asked for. Gus Bundy, a photographer that captured a series of photos from a roundup in 1951 that exploits different methods these cowboys use. Some of these include hog tying, tire necklaces, and just running horses till they collapse from exhaustion. After the photos were exploited, Miss Wild Horse Annie had her own photo shoot with a man who went by Fritz, who was going to be the cover for the magazine review. This shot was taken January 1958, and it was quite the photograph. Within this photo, Velma is on her beloved horse Hobo, who is staged at a half rear, biting at the silver bit in his mouth and wide eyes covering his winter shaggy coat. Some say Hobo looks like a fresh Mustang straight from breaking. This is a shot that would make capturers run because Velma is in complete control in a relaxed position. She looks extremely confident, and the shadow covers the side of her face that was scarred by the polio. This photo was a key factor in boosting Velma's campaign because, as Fritz put it, horse butchers don't have any more free play. Call the name Wild Horse Annie, and they run like sheep from a wolf. Charlie soon became sick and passed from an illness. Velma found it hard to continue and carry on after his death, but she wasn't the only thing having a hard time carrying on. The act Congress passed was becoming ineffective and ignored by many. Although sad, she was encouraged to continue the utmost maximum protection of her beloved creatures. On December 15, 1971, the Free-Roaming Wild Horse and Burro Act was passed in Congress after she gave this testimony. From an estimated 2 million at the turn of the century, their numbers have been reduced to an estimated 25,000 in the late 1950s. Even though the burros were not commercially exploited, they fared no better than the horses, and claims of overpopulation and possible competition with other fauna led to systematic extermination programs. In addition, would-be Nimrods would have found them ideal target practice. Johnston is expressing the domestics of all the violence. Velma believes the trappers are incompetent and will never be trusted because they only come back for more horses, and the wild horse and burro population shrinks day by day. Johnston brings fact after fact, like studies to show the population count. This is what Congress really paid attention to, the facts. Velma Bronn Johnston showed what true heroism was for. Nothing Velma Bronn Johnston did was for herself. It was all for the better welfare of wild horses and burros alike. She took a stand for what she believed was right in her heart and eyes. She led and guided the way for those who were blinded and unaware of cruel situations that were happening to the horses, right in front of them. She saved the population for wild horses for us today.